they're brothers in arms. They believe in one another, and they're excited to see those guys play. So it's not. I see why it's a topic, but it's not really a topic in our inner circle. We're just going to go play the game, and we're excited about the guys we've got.
May not be a topic for the Ravens' inner circle, but on the outer circle it is. Now, that might not be something the team cares about, and rightfully so. But here's the fact of the matter. Yet again, the Ravens are dealing with injuries to big-name players. They'll be without 2 starting offensive linemen for the Week 2 matchup in Cincinnati, with Tyler Linderbaum out with an ankle, Ronnie Stanley out with a knee. Then on defense, no Marlon Humphrey or Marcus Williams, but on a positive note, Mark Andrews practiced in full and is listed as questionable. As for the matchup, whole lot of familiarity between these two teams who continue their rivalry Sunday in the jungle.
We're excited for the opportunity, in all seriousness. Can't wait to go play the game. We respect the team. We respect the environment. We know we got our work cut out for us, but we also feel like we're up for it, and we're ready to go roll, man. And let's go see what happens.
A sellout crowd announced at Camden Yards for tonight's game between the O's and the Rays. One game separates the team for first place in the AL East. First pitch scheduled for 7:05 on Apple TV. How about some Friday night football in College Park as well? The Terps welcome Virginia to CQ Stadium. Plus, an Oriole great officially retires with the team when Sports Unlimited returns.
Rocco, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6, we're following breaking news. The latest on the state school superintendent, Mohammed Chaudhry, deciding not to seek a second term. And a parental rights fight in Massachusetts could impact schools nationwide. The ongoing battle surrounding informing parents of students changing their name or pronouns.
Breaking tonight, Superintendent of Maryland Schools Mohammed Chaudhry won't seek to renew his contract. We bring you the latest details and what may have led up to his decision. Fox 45 continues over coverage into the growing juvenile crime crisis. Today, we press the governor on what action he wants to see to make our communities safer. And after this week's hours-long hearing on juvenile crime, the pressure is on for laws to change. We're pressing state leaders on this sense of urgency.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Breaking tonight, Maryland State Superintendent Mohammed Chaudhry withdraws his request for a second term. The announcement follows a series of Project Baltimore investigations that raised some serious questions about transparency within the Maryland State Department of Education. Fox 45 News was the first to report the state's removal of publicly available test data, plus allegations of a toxic work culture under Chaudhry's watch, as well as the use of an encrypted messaging app used by Chaudhry and others after the superintendent denied using the app for work-related communications. Good evening, I'm Maxine Stryker. Thanks so much for staying with us. Let's go right to Kai Jackson with the latest details.
Well, it was summer, Maxine, when the superintendent asked the board to extend his contract, but today the news is that he's ready to go. In a statement released this morning, school officials announced that Superintendent Mohammed Chaudhry had informed the state school board that he's withdrawing his request for a second term to, quote, pursue other opportunities. Chaudhry was appointed to the post 2 years ago, but it wasn't long before staff members were complaining that his leadership style had created a toxic work environment, according to some staff members. Earlier this year, Project Baltimore reported that Chaudhry had removed test data from the state's website and was using an encrypted messaging app to communicate with fellow staff members. This weekend, Governor Wes Moore expressed concern about his ability to lead.
Part of the challenge that we have with the structure is that the governor doesn't decide that. I want transparency, I want accountability, and I want a superintendent that believes in it and can deliver it. The results we're seeing right now are not satisfactory results, and I demand better, and we need to make sure that we're getting better results for our kids.
Fox 45's Jeff Abel is following this story. He'll bring us a full report tonight on Fox 45 News at 10. Maxine?
Kai, thank you for our full coverage on the controversy surrounding the state superintendent, including reports from Project Baltimore's investigations. Head to foxbaltimore.com. And continuing coverage tonight on the youth crime crisis as prosecutors, police, and parents all remain frustrated about juvenile justice laws following this week's hours-long hearing. Fox 45 News has heard from prosecutors in counties across the state, as well as Baltimore City, all saying their hands are tied by current laws. That group represents more than 4.5 million people, about 80% of Maryland's population. Following the hearing, many eyes are now shifting to the state's top official for his stance on juvenile justice reform. Earlier this week, Governor Wes Moore agreeing changes do need to be made, but he stopped short when asked for specifics. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor is pressing the governor to learn more about what changes he's willing to call for.
It's a promise he has yet to back up with a plan. The governor has been quick to guarantee these changes, but had little to say when asked what these changes will be. Following hours of heated debate.
We need to stop making excuses for these kids.
They just kind of cycle through the system.
At a special hearing in Annapolis Wednesday, Governor Wes Moore pledging to listen to parents, police, and prosecutors who argue out-of-control juvenile crime.
They see no reason to stop committing crimes.
Is not getting the attention it needs from lawmakers.
To make sure that the laws are going to both make sure that these repeat violent offenders, that there has to be measurements of accountability. You can't just get right back on the streets.
But when asked what changes he's calling for specifically,
we're going to work in partnership with the legislature.
Moore dodging the details.
And I think that his voice is missing on this.
According to political analyst John Deedy,
when you put your ideas out there, the public sees more of a sense of urgency because you're stepping up to the plate.
Moore's vague response to Maryland's struggling juvenile justice system missing the mark amid a wave of young people continuing to commit and fall victim to crime.
Put the marker out there saying, this is what I want done, instead of letting the legislature do it.
Today, Fox 45 pressing for clarity on what action Moore plans to take.
Can you really be specific about exactly what needs to change?
Yeah, well, I know the legislature is working on it now, and you have to work in partnership with the legislature because some of the laws they're talking about adjusting are laws that were passed before I became the governor.
As the governor now, though, you lead the legislature. So what exactly about these laws do you think needs to be changed? I know you said that there needs to be accountability, but what does accountability look like in terms of these laws?
Yeah, well, I work in partnership with the legislature, and I know that the laws that they're looking at adjusting right now, these are laws that were passed before I became the governor. And so the adjustments to the laws that were passed by the legislature need to be adjusted by the legislature, but they know we are working very closely with them to make sure that the adjustments that need to be made are going to be made.
But again, what adjustments he believes need to be made remain unclear.
I think the response is sad.
Despite growing demands for those adjustments to arrive right now.
He's letting the Maryland General Assembly lead instead of him leading. And I think he should be the leader on this.
The governor also holds the power to call a special session, which would bring lawmakers back to Annapolis right now to address this issue. But the governor has repeatedly said he has no plans to do so. In the control room, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
And now factions are forming in Annapolis between some lawmakers and the people on the ground dealing with the problem. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost breaks down the pressure building for something to change.
It's time to break all of this down from the accountability desk. We were in Annapolis earlier the week for the House Judiciary Committee hearing. The hearing itself was held virtually, and the State House echoed with emptiness. And the conversation took 5 hours. There was a lot of questioning, but not a lot of talk about real action. And now the pressure is building for lawmakers to do something. This is Delegate Lou Clippinger. He's the chair of this House Judiciary Committee, and he's a delegate from Baltimore City. And he listened to a presentation from the Department of Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi. Secretary Schiraldi's been on the job for about 7 months or so. And remember, has some of his previous policy ideas, like the possibility of keeping people 25 years old or younger out of the adult criminal justice system, raised some questions during the confirmation process about whether he was the right guy for the job. But he cleared the confirmation hurdle and now is seeing some support among some liberal lawmakers. I want you to hear some of the comments that Secretary Schiraldi made during the hearing about juvenile crime.
Youth crime is down over the last decade by half. As juvenile incarceration has declined, so has juvenile crime.
But that's not what prosecutors from around the state are saying about the reality in their own areas.
This legislation has put our children at risk, our communities at risk, and the entire state at risk of extreme chronic violence.
And the statements of the secretary about the falling numbers in terms of juvenile crime that's not what we've seen here in Montgomery County. If you actually compare the numbers between 21 and 22, we have nearly doubled the number of arrests in 22 than we had in 21.
Even Chairman Clippinger raising questions about the validity of the DJS data.
I'm not sure it's because there has been a drop in juvenile crime. I think the numbers have simply dropped because in many cases, police officers have not brought charges in many cases.
So the split among lawmakers and some people on the front line seems to be growing. Here are some of the questions that we're asking Secretary Schiraldi. What do you say to prosecutors who claim crime is not going down, rather it's increasing? Are the prosecutors wrong? Does the data show crime is declining because kids 13 years old and younger are no longer facing charges for these nonviolent misdemeanors? And in Baltimore City, more than 7,000 cars have been stolen this year alone. Do you believe kids 13 and younger should be formalized within DJS for stealing a car? We'll let you know if we get any answers from Secretary Schiraldi. And that brings us to another split that's forming in the State House. This is Senate President Bill Ferguson. He's a Democrat from Baltimore City. And here's House Speaker Adrian Jones, another Democrat, but from Baltimore County. And these two are critical. Remember their names and faces because they are two of the most important people in Annapolis. And these two are facing pressure from parents, police, and prosecutors to do something to bring more accountability into the juvenile justice system. But right now, it's not clear what exactly they're going to do. I tried to question Speaker Jones, but she walked away. Here's part of that interaction. Do you believe that kids using guns in crimes is a problem that the House will address in January?
The Judiciary Committee will be dealing.
As Speaker, though, do you think that it's something that will be a priority?
The Judiciary Committee and all our committees, all their priorities,
We're asking several questions to Jones and Ferguson as well. Here's some of them. This is the big one that everyone has been asking lawmakers. What specific plans do you have to address the rise in juvenile crime that communities all across Maryland are seeing right now? This question is very important as well. We're asking these two legislative leaders, the leaders of both chambers in the General Assembly, how do you respond to people who say this, meaning the current juvenile justice laws, threaten the safety of all Marylanders? We'll keep you posted on what they have to say. Now, there will be another hearing in November. This time, that conversation will take place in person. But it's still unclear if there will be any plans these lawmakers will talk about that could result in any change, especially with the General Assembly session beginning in January. At the accountability desk, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, in a statement to Fox 45 News, the Department of Juvenile Services says it's focused on reducing violent crime and defends the data in its latest report showing juvenile crime is declining. The statement continues to say, quote, "We are moving in partnership with law enforcement, community-based organizations, parents, caregivers, victims, and village elders to stem the tide of violence and create more opportunity for youth across Maryland." The number of auto thefts reported across Baltimore continues to climb. In just the first full week of September, more than 300 people fell victim to the crime. The city largely blaming the spike on a TikTok trend that prompts juveniles to hotwire Hyundai and Kias. But they're not the only cars being targeted. More than 7,000 auto thefts have been reported so far this year, less than 3% ending in an arrest. Police say those arrested are often right back out on the streets, and prosecutors argue the laws on the books are roadblocks to holding young people accountable. As lawmakers grapple over solutions, dozens of people each day are finding themselves out hundreds, in some cases thousands of dollars, and without a car.
It's frustrating, I have to go through all this other extra financial situations with this.
When your car is stolen, to you, that's major. And people respond accordingly. If they have their car stolen, they move. They don't renew their lease. They don't buy that house in the first place, whatever it happens to be. So the economic impacts are major.
If you have a stolen car story or you know someone who's been impacted by the spike in auto thefts, Fox 45 wants to hear about it. Just scan the QR code on your screen and tell us what happened or send us an email at foxbaltimore.com.
I'm Kayla Gaskins. Coming up, why parents in a small Massachusetts town are suing the public school system and why the outcome of that case could have nationwide impacts.
And we are dealing with nice and seasonable temperatures for the middle of September, but tomorrow it'll feel more like early September. I'll let you know how high the temperatures get and when to expect the next weather maker in my full forecast.
The outcome of a court battle over parental rights in a small Massachusetts suburb could impact how school systems handle transgender students across the country. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the story.
Two parents in the small town of Ludlow, Massachusetts are suing the public school system for allegedly, purposefully, failing to inform them their 11-year-old began using a new name and new pronouns during the school day.
They weren't even given the information they needed to really make a decision of what is going to be the best for their children.
The parents taking the matter to federal court, arguing the school's decision to withhold this information violates their constitutional right to raise their child.
It's a very serious issue of the schools basically overstepping their bounds, overstepping what they're allowed to do.
The school's actions appear to be in step with guidance outlined by the state's Department of Education, which states some transgender and gender nonconforming students are not openly so at home. School personnel should speak with the student first before discussing a student's gender nonconformity or transgender status with the student's parent. We reached out to the school system's attorney Thursday and have yet to hear back. The topic becoming a hot-button political issue. Critics slamming Randy Weingarten, the leader of one of the largest teachers' unions, who this week compared the current fight for parental rights to those advocating for segregated schools in the 1950s.
Those same words that you heard in terms of wanting segregation post-Brown v. Board of Education, those same words you hear today. Parental rights. An attempt to divide parents versus teachers. And that point, it was white parents versus other parents.
And now the final outcome of this case in Massachusetts could have nationwide impacts. A ruling on the case is expected in the coming months.
And Kayla, a federal appeals court in Maryland heard a similar case. What happens there?
So, Maxine, 3 parents challenged similar guidelines that were imposed by the Montgomery County Public School System. Now, those guidelines allow schools to create support plans for transgender students, and they don't require parental knowledge or consent of the plans. The federal appeals court, though, threw out the case. In the dismissal, the judges did not address the constitutionality of the guidelines, but rather ruled these specific parents didn't have standing to bring the case because none of the 3 parents had a transgender child. Now, in the Massachusetts case, however, this does involve parents of transgender children. And so, Maxine, it appears the appellate court will make a decision in that case.
All right, Kayla Gaskins joining us live from D.C. tonight. Thank you.
Right now, you're taking a look over Baltimore and over Towson. We've got nice and sunny skies, comfortable fall temperatures, and on the HD radar, not too much happening here, but we are keeping track of the tropics and the impacts that could be felt in New England. We'll have our next chance for rain, though, when we get ready for a weather maker coming on Sunday. 79 for the current temperature with plenty of sunshine. It's a little bit breezy with winds around 11 miles per hour, but overall, it's been a very gorgeous Friday. We've had plenty of sunshine and still seeing those sunny skies around the entire state. Temperatures mainly in the 70s all around, a little bit cooler in western Maryland. You will start to notice a big cool down overnight as temperatures drop to the 40s and the 50s. You'll want the sweater in the morning, but it looks great for the afternoon. Temperatures will be a couple degrees higher, reaching the 80s for many of us. And again, we're talking plenty of sunshine. We'll have dry weather, really not too much to see around our region, but you can see those spots of red in New England from Massachusetts all the way into Maine. That's for a tropical storm warning. So notice we are keeping close watch on Lee as it moves north. It's expected to make landfall tomorrow as a tropical storm, likely along Nova Scotia before moving over New Brunswick. Then it'll continue to weaken, especially as it moves into the northern Atlantic. So not a threat here, but we could have some dangerous rip currents today and also tomorrow and Sunday if you're heading to Ocean City. Notice tonight we stay quiet and clear and we'll wake up to plenty of sunshine in the morning. Then for the afternoon, sunny around the state as those temperatures reach the 70s and the 80s. More clouds move in for Sunday morning, and then we have our next chance for showers that comes in the afternoon. Expect those off and on showers continuing through the night and then into early Monday morning. The rest of Monday will be mostly dry and will stay dry over the next several days that follow. Tonight we drop to 56 with clear and crisp conditions. Then tomorrow we're looking at highs around 83. It'll be a little bit warmer with plenty of sunshine, so great for spending some time outside. But we have the rain that follows on Sunday. Coming up, I'll have a closer look at what to expect for the weekend and into next week in the exclusive 10-day forecast.
A new scam circulating on Facebook feeds nationwide. The signs one victim of the scam says he wished he looked out for. In tonight's Assignment America, a Fresno man who was scammed out of money over a Facebook guessing game now wants to warn others about a new scam circulating on the social media feed across the country. Myra Franco from our Sinclair station in Fresno has the story.
It feels horrible. People work hard for their money.
Diego Risueño of Fresno says he lost $100 to a scammer online. He says Monday he came across this post on a local Facebook group page called Almost Free and Expensive or For Sell Everything Fresno. What caught his attention was looking to bless a family with money part. So he says he participated in the harmless fun guessing game with the hope he might be blessed with more money, as his budget was already tight.
If you got it right, you would get a blessing, so to speak. So I thought I'd respond. And so sure enough, I got a response from the person that posted the game saying, "Do you have Cash App?" I do. "What's your Cash App tag?" I gave her my Cash App tag.
Then the scammer claimed to be sending money from a business Cash App and asked for a $100 cover fee in exchange to send him $1,500. He rejected since it was too good to be true, but she insisted, saying, "I swear it's